All right, I think we're going to get things started. We currently have 34 people in the room and our three nonprofits and a few people from the Shame on UX and ArcWeb Technologies team. Introduction. Thank you everyone for joining Critique for a Cause, presented by Shame on UX and ArcWeb Technologies and part of Philly Tech Week 2020. My name is Kurt Schiller, and I'm the head of marketing at ArcWeb Technologies, and we're a custom software agency here in Philadelphia that designs and builds healthcare software, rather, for the healthcare and financial services industries. Some of you may have attended or been aware of the event that we held last year at Philly Tech Week in the spring, which seems like an incredibly long time ago. That was the Healthcare Prototype-a-thon, which was an event where we invited people out to learn a bit about rapid prototyping techniques and then present a prototype of their own creation to a group of expert judges that we had recruited from Philadelphia area health systems. We were originally going to hold that event again this year, but there were two problems. One of which is that our healthcare workers, who are so critical and essential to everything going on, are a little bit overwhelmed right now, and so it seemed a bit much to ask them to take time out of their day to participate in an event. And the other thing was the event that we did last year was really designed to work in person. So what we decided to do was to combine one of our goals at ArcWeb and Shame on UX, which is education, with another one of our goals, which is giving back to the community, and to look for an opportunity to teach a bit about design and then connect people up with some local nonprofits to provide some insight into ways that they might be able to improve the user experiences of their websites. So we've got three awesome nonprofits here today, Black Phoenix Inc., Squash Smarts, and Back on My Feet. And we'll have the chance to hear from them in a little bit in more detail. But I just wanted to give kind of a quick overview of the program. We're going to have a 20 to 30 minute educational portion from the Shame on UX team at the beginning. After that, we'll be breaking everyone up into groups and pairing you up with one of the three nonprofits to conduct an on-the-spot UX assessment. There will also be some Shame on UX people in the room with you as well, in case you have any questions. And then we're at the end of that. Each group is going to select a person to kind of give a very short, just kind of overview back to the group as a whole about what some of your findings were. And then actually after the event, we're going to be compiling some of those presentations and giving them back to the nonprofits so that going forward, maybe they'll be able to incorporate some of that feedback into their ongoing web development and projects. But without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to the Shame on UX team to get our program started, and I'll let them introduce themselves. But I just wanted to shout out one last time everyone from the Shame on UX and ArcWeb team who put this event together, and then of course, and most importantly, the nonprofits who are taking time out of their very busy days to come out and participate, and then all of you for also attending and time out of your days to participate. So without further ado, I'll hand things over to the Shame on UX team.
Excellent. Wow, that was quite the intro, Kurt. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you everybody for being here today. Yeah, we're definitely excited to host this. It's a shame that it's not in person, but I mean, we're kind of excited to do a virtual event and see if we can kind of make this all work. So yeah, like I said, welcome. We're really excited. And this event is a little bit different this week or this year. And we're trying something a little bit more unique. And we're kind of excited to be partnered up with Philly Tech Week again. It's been kind of a heck of a year. Everybody's virtual. Everyone's kind of getting used to this Zoom grind. But it's nice to kind of have everybody participate and in the room. Why don't we jump on ahead, Nicole? So cool. So why are we all here, right? So this afternoon we're going to learn about the key principles that make for great usability. As Kurt mentioned, there's going to be kind of a hands-on portion with this, where we're going to split into groups, analyze and audit the websites of our three local nonprofits, and then apply some of these principles that we're going to learn to empower them to understand and identify gaps within their digital presence. And basically what that really kind of boils down to is, this event is going to be take a little bit of education and give back a little bit to the community, kind of while putting those new skills to the test. And then hopefully, by applying these like simple little principles, you'll be able to kind of take any digital experience and start to uncover how to make small but like really impactful changes. So I'm going to run through a quick couple of introductions. So we are the ArcWeb team, primarily the design team, though ArcWeb is about, I think, 35 people strong. This is our design team is 6 people. We've got Len, who's the head of design. He's kind of hanging around on the Zoom. Nicole Erasm, who's going to be running us through the heuristics. Angela Agosto, our UX architect. Melissa Kinney, who's another one of our architects. Casey Cowan, myself. So hopefully you will hear a little bit more from me, but then I will kind of fade away into the shadows and let everyone else kind of have some time in the spotlight. And then obviously you kind of got an intro to Kurt, and then Sierra, who make up our marketing department, and really kind of help put all this together, find the nonprofits, really kind of help out with the logistics, which is actually almost more challenging in this day and age than just kind of having everyone come down to Old City to our office. So there's a lot of moving parts, and definitely we'll give them a round of applause at the end for their efforts. So the agenda for today is going to be the UX heuristics overview, and we'll kind of explain what heuristics are. The introduction of our subject matter experts. That's what SME stands for. It took me till 2020 to learn that that abbreviation, and then hear about kind of the goals for their individual organizations and kind of what their aims are. And then we'll split out into groups, and then do kind of a Zoom breakout room. There'll be, I think, one of the ArcWebbers as part of each group. So if you guys have any questions, any sort of things that you want to bat back and forth, we'll definitely be there. Chat will be available, and then we'll all kind of be brought back, brought back together. If you guys could, from the teams, basically pick a speaker to then present those findings, and then we'll kind of all come together for a wrap up. So what are heuristics? So really, there's kind of a more specific definition, but the part that we're really concerned about is, it's a usability inspection method mainly used to identify and design issues associated with the user interface design. And, that's kind of like fancy language for really heuristics are a problem-solving method that uses shortcuts to produce, basically good enough solutions given a limited time frame or deadline. And heuristics were originally developed by this guy called Jacob Nielsen, who was one of the co-founders of the Nielsen-Norman group, which, if you've done any kind of typed UX into any Google search, the Nielsen-Norman group has probably popped up in that search. They're, I would say, probably the leading organization that deals with, kind of user research and UX related things. They kind of call themselves a research and consulting firm, but I feel like they're just kind of like the knowledge epicenter of kind of UX learning and teaching. And if you haven't checked out their websites and articles and whatnot, it is very, very insightful. And this guy, Jacob Nielsen, who's pictured on the right-hand side, actually originally developed these heuristics all the way back in 1994, which, sounds kind of crazy with how quickly the web changes and, different standards come into play. But, as you'll see from how broad they are and how, and the kind of items that they cover, that they're applicable, even 25 years down the road. So they are kind of a very, very good initial baseline to kind of look at any digital experience and, be able to kind of evaluate it and identify any sort of problems and issues. And hopefully today you'll get a little bit of that knowledge and be able to apply that to, really kind of anything down the road, whether you're a UX practitioner or just using, the Pico website to pay your bill, and you'll be able to identify some of those problems and how things can be improved. So according to Nielsen, they're called heuristics because they're basically broad rules of thumb, right? Like they're not specific guidelines. It's not it's not a very prescribed methodology. It's kind of just a way of looking at interfaces and the way that humans interact with computers, and how to make that kind of as smooth and seamless as possible and kind of iron out a lot of the kinks. And really with that, I'll kick it over to Nicole to really run through the 10 heuristics, and then the source is listed right there at the bottom. So when we share out this deck, you'll be able to kind of check these out, at will. But take it away, Nicole.
All right, so the first one is visibility of system status. The system should always keep users informed about what is going on through appropriate feedback within reasonable time. So by letting users know what's happening behind the scenes, you're keeping the user informed, you're reducing friction, and communicating trust in the system. You don't want to blindfold your users. What we're showing here is a design where we had a user that was waiting for a personal wellness plan, and the animation lets them know that the screen isn't frozen and things are currently progressing. The second one is matching between the system and the real world. The system should speak the user's language with words, phrases, and concepts familiar to the user rather than system-oriented terms. Following real-world conventions, making information appear in a natural and logical order. So in this design, we phrased a question, would you like to send Ian Wright feedback for the grocery pickup? By using familiar language, we're avoiding something confusing that sounds too technical. It's just a more human way to design that ultimately makes for a better human experience. The third one is user control and freedom. Users often choose system functions by mistake and will need a clearly marked emergency exit to leave the unwanted stage without having to go through an extended dialogue. Support support undo and redo. So here you're seeing a design that has allows the user to take the survey later in the upper right. This functions as an exit and allows them to confidently leave a process. It lets them know that it will still be available. Being able to cancel something before it's completely uploaded and being able to get out of an accidentally triggered action are also useful. This makes the user more comfortable and less nervous that they're doing something wrong. The fourth one is consistency and standards. Users should not have to wonder whether different words, situations, or actions mean the same thing. This design has two very clear and very different actions: offer to help and post a need. They're separated visually into two boxes and they don't sound similar. They're designed for two different types of users so that they can find their specific needs. Another example of the consistency you see in e-commerce sites where the shopping cart is always in the top right corner. That's just so users always know that's where you find it. Consistency results in efficiency and perceived intuitiveness. Error prevention. Even better than good error messages is a careful design which prevents a problem from occurring in the first place. Either eliminate error-prone conditions or check for them and present users with a confirmation option before they commit to the action. So here you're seeing a design we did where the users can select rows in a table to change their status. We didn't want them to be able to select rows with different statuses and change them at the same time. So at first we did try some errors where it told them they couldn't do that. But then we realized that was a negative experience and we could actually just prevent it. So what you're seeing here is once they select a pending option, everything else is grayed out, so they just can't even do it. Number 6 is recognition rather than recall. Minimize the user's memory load by making objects, actions, and options visible. The user should not have to remember information from one part of the dialogue to another. Instructions for use of the system should be visible or easily retrievable whenever appropriate. In this example, we picked a function that is most important for the user and put it in the header where it's always accessible. The create function does have a home elsewhere, but it was just so useful that we thought, why not have it from everywhere? And then in typical nav bar fashion, we have the highest levels of navigation and profile and settings also present. Number 7, flexibility and efficiency of use. Accelerators, unseen by the novice user, may often speed the interaction for the expert user, such as the system can cater to both inexperienced and experienced users. Allow users to tailor frequent actions. Here we're showing a shortcut to important sections in the search screen. So we're adding more value here by giving a second way to get somewhere that we know is often used and even may eliminate the need to search. They're not the most findable ways to get to these places by a first-time user, but they will be later discovered and useful to an experienced user. So thinking about both users. Number 8, aesthetic and minimalist design. Dialogue should not contain information which is irrelevant or rarely needed. Every extra unit of information in a dialogue competes with the relevant units of information and diminishes their relative visibility. So this design breaks up a setup flow into one part at a time. This focuses the user and makes them feel less overwhelmed while making for a cleaner interface. All steps are important and shouldn't need to compete with each other. Number 9, help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. Error messages should be expressed in plain language, no codes, precisely indicate the problem, and constructively suggest a solution. So here we're showing an error message that clearly shows where the error occurred. It would not be helpful if it didn't show which field was missing an input. Error messages should be straightforward as possible, and they should identify the problem and the solution, and making that as easy for users as possible to fix. 10, help and documentation. Even though it's better if the system can be used without documentation, it may be necessary to provide help and documentation. Any such information should be easy to search, focused on the user's task, and list concrete steps to be carried out and not be too large. So ideally, help isn't always needed, but in this example, it was from a very complex medical diagnosis flow, and we knew that some of the users were going to need assistance. So rather than overwhelming all the users with a lot of help information, we made this small, easily dismissible help box that just lets them know how they can get help if they need it. And that is all 10. Now we're going to talk about the nonprofits, and I'm going to pass it over to Angela.
Thanks, Nicole. So now that we have gone through the UX heuristics and you've either learned them for the first time or maybe you've gotten a helpful refresher on them, we're going to use them to help some awesome local nonprofits that are here with us today make some improvements to their websites using these principles. I will quickly just give you an overview of the nonprofits, and then I'll turn it over to our subject matter experts who are here today with us to kind of give us more detail about what they're looking to get out of the session today. So our first nonprofit is Black Phoenix, Inc. They use short stories and poetry as vehicles to explore and communicate the richness of being Black and of African descent. Their end goal is to instill pride and self-esteem in young Black kids growing up around the globe and cultivate learned optimism and dignity in the future generation. Our second nonprofit with us today is Squash Smarts. They are a free, intensive, out-of-school time program supporting the lives of Philadelphia's public school students with an academic and athletic mentoring program aiming to keep kids in school, in shape, and on track for graduation. And then our last nonprofit with us today is Back on My Feet, which is a national organization operating in 13 major U.S. cities, combating homelessness through the power of running, community sport, and essential employment and housing resources. So thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day today to be with us and guide our UX participants so that we can try to give you some useful feedback today. Our participants from the nonprofits who will be with us today are, I may pronounce some things wrong, and sorry, you can correct me when you introduce yourselves. Mia Taylor from Black Phoenix Inc., Debbie Dowland from Squash Smarts, and Carrie Lindman from Back on My Feet. Thank you guys so much for being here. And now I'll turn it over to you to give us a little bit more information about your goals and general information about your nonprofit. So Mia, you are first.
Okay, thank you so much. So yes, that is how you pronounce my name. My name is Amia. So I am the senior editor at Black Phoenix Inc. I'm also on the board of directors, and I have so many jobs. I do copywriting and brand outreach and different things, but I'm so glad to be here today. As far as our organization, we are a literary nonprofit, and we believe that Black people have inherent value and dignity and merit. We also believe that diasporic Black people have been separated from the roots of their cultural heritage, and that many popular portrayals of Black people are based in like laughable or negative stereotypes. So our solution is the acquisition of different international creative stories that show Black people in a positive light and really show our intelligence and limitlessness and ingenuity. As we run our literary contest, and we have two. We have a short story contest, and we also have a poetry contest. The stories are geared particularly towards children. We have the direct goal of young Black children seeing themselves positively represented and also building a foundational identity that's rooted in celebrating Black culture. So ultimately bringing that back to the idea of learned optimism, upliftment, and self-esteem in our children for a better next generation. So as far as this event and what we're looking for as far as feedback, I'm super interested in user accessibility, finding out how easy it is to use our site, how direct it is, and as far as the structure, can people easily navigate it and find the things that they want? And then also calls to action. We are a nonprofit, and like your stereotypical nonprofit, we are always looking for sponsors. We're always looking for new members that are passionate about what we're doing and would like to help. So we want to make sure that as far as the toolbar and anything that's navigatable in our website, that our call to actions are clear and front and center. You know what I mean? So as far as navigating the website, we're trying to make sure that it looks high-end, professional, and accessible for potential people who might want to collaborate or partner as well. So I hope that that covers everything.
That was awesome. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you.
All right, you're up, Debbie. Just be sure to unmute.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today and Squash Smarts. We're excited about this experience. So as you mentioned, we serve students in the Philadelphia Public Schools. We primarily are focused on North Philadelphia and West Philadelphia. We've been around since 2001, so we're entering our 20th year. And we're really proud to offer students in middle school through high school and college and beyond a year-round mentoring program that offers them academic support as well as fitness, squash, the introduction of the game of squash, which I mean, I didn't know, a lot of people didn't know about squash very much. So it's a whole new world for them, but also to offer something that's not offered in the Philly public schools and just to provide more mentorship through academics, because we know how the student to counselor ratios in the Philly Public Schools, of which I am a graduate, are very stressed and overtaxed. So providing as much support as we can after school, on weekends, throughout the summer. Right now we have people on virtual tutoring sessions all day with our students to help them through this time, while also delivering whatever we can, groceries, things that our families are needing. It's been a wild year, but we're just so excited because we are able to provide students with opportunities that they might not be able to access otherwise. So that means summer camps, that means sometimes going to private clubs in the suburbs that have nice camps that they can go to, or an SAT prep, or going as far as Massachusetts, San Francisco, or even England for certain squash opportunities, and of course build their experiences for college and beyond. And I would be remiss to say that if I didn't say that we do have students who are always looking for experiences like internships and things that they could participate in. We have a lot of students at the Carver High School for Engineering and Science. They do take coding, so we've definitely helped connect our kids with internships. And of course, we have a lot of professionals who come and offer tutoring and volunteering if they are looking to get involved. So today, I'm just excited to hear your feedback. And as I mentioned in a statement earlier with Kurt, is that we are just looking to see how the website is accessible to our different stakeholders. So we have our students who are current students. We have our alumni, which is now 88 students. And then we also have, of course, donors. We have family members of students. We also have potential prospective family members and students who need information about how to join and get involved. So lots of different people to serve on our website. And we have no IT department. Our website was built by my executive director, and he updates it when he can. And I personally haven't done much on the website, so just looking to take a lot of notes and see what we can bring back. So thank you very much for your opportunity today.
Great, thank you, Debbie. Carrie, you're up next.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you guys so much for letting us come in today. Back on My Feet's really excited to be a part of this. So I'm our National Marketing Director at Back on My Feet. As was already mentioned, Back on My Feet's a nonprofit. We're a national nonprofit, but we were born and raised in Philly, and we've since expanded into 13 cities across the US. We use running at 5:30 in the morning across the US to help men and women who are currently experiencing homelessness or working through their addiction to get ultimately sustainable employment and stable housing. That's our end goal. Running's the catalyst. Running is that thing that brings those people together, our volunteers with our members on street corners across the US in the morning, and it builds community. And the community is really the really strong and powerful part of our organization. And it is what sustains our members through our program, which is a workforce development and training program, giving them the skills necessary to really remove barriers or circumnavigate any obstacles in their path as they go back to that employment piece and really make sure that they can get back in the workforce. And so that might be as basic as like, how do I create a resume, or how do I use LinkedIn? And it can be more extreme to how do I manage my money? How do I pay rent and pay my bills? Etiquette on email for people who are going back into the workplace, or how to use social media most effectively. So it really is a pretty comprehensive program that provides a lot of support for our members as they get into that piece. Our website is a work in progress. It always is. When I came into this position 2.5 years ago, we had 13 websites on outdated Drupal platforms for each of our chapters. So we combined it into one website, which is what you'll look at today. It is something that we are always iterating on and trying really hard to push forward. That said, we don't have an IT department either. So we are strong and mighty. I've got Aaron on the line as well as Josh. We are the marketing department, and we have different functions, but we all put our fingers into this when necessary. We do have a lot of different stakeholders that we are addressing. We have volunteers and supporters from around the country who either run with our members in the morning or who provide workforce development and training programs to our members. So they're the ones running our resume building workshops or providing internet safety classes, basically like how not to get scammed on the internet, as well as mock interviews, right? So they could be helping on either side. We did just launch a portal this year to help communicate to our volunteers and help kind of corral them a little bit more, especially in COVID times. So that's one of the ways we've pivoted. Other stakeholders include our corporate partners and foundations. We are heavily corporate partner supported. And so we have partners like Marriott and AT&T and Samsung and White Lodging. And they come to us for a myriad of reasons to get involved from a corporate social responsibility perspective, to sponsor our events, to attend our events. They have teams running Broad Street Run, or they have teams virtually running our races across the country. So this is a place for them to learn more about our organization and hopefully take a step to get involved and fill out a partnership form to get involved. Two stakeholder groups that had not previously been accounted for that we just launched today, that we made live, are members and also our employment partner program. So our employment partners, we have employment partners across the country, Marriott and White Lodging being two of them, some of the larger ones, who employ our members and who offer jobs for them. But we never had a job board. We launched a job board today, which is pretty exciting. You're only going to see one job on there because we're currently populating it, but we wanted to make sure you guys saw it as part of our audit today. So that is launched. And the ability for our employment partners to go in there and proactively list those jobs that are available and share those with our members. So that's a little bit about us. I did get two quick questions, and so I'll answer those. Somebody asked about becoming entrepreneurs and starting their own businesses. We actually have a lot of members who have started their own businesses, everything from, we have one woman who designs jewelry. We have multiple people who've gotten into, we have somebody who's become a plumber and he has his own business and actually employs like 10 people in New York City. He's doing amazing. We have a guy in Baltimore, gentleman in Baltimore who has a landscaping business. We have members across the country who've started their own businesses. A woman who graduated from Harvard 2 years ago, somebody who's getting ready to graduate from Columbia. I'll be honest, talking to our members and seeing what they can accomplish and what they've achieved is really inspiring and part of why I do what I do. So thanks for everybody who's involved. And if anybody likes to run, when this is, kind of calms down a little bit more, we always like runners. Come join us.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And thank you, Amia and Debbie, for the overviews and background that will be super helpful to our participants when they're doing their UX audits on your sites. So with that, I'll hand it over to Casey to tell you about what you're going to be doing in your breakout rooms.
All right. Thanks, Angela. Hi, everyone, and thanks again to the nonprofits for those introductions. So now it's time for you guys to put these heuristics into practice. And we encourage you to use them during the audit process in order to give a well-rounded assessment of the websites. So this is how it's going to go. You guys are going to be randomly assigned into a team and a nonprofit. And we've set up a doc for you with all the information that you'll need to perform that audit. We'll give you about a 5 and 10 minute warning before it's time to wrap up. And when it's time to present, choose one person to be your speaker to present your biggest bullet points for when you return. And a member from ArcWeb will be in each of the rooms in case you have any questions. So this is a look at the doc that we will be sharing with you guys. And again, one of us will be in the group and share the link to the chat, so you guys will have access to this and be able to edit it. And at the top, you'll be able to find a link to the nonprofit's website, and you'll have instructions for what to do just in case you forget. Then we've listed out all the heuristics, so after each one, you can document your findings. And this is just a really simple way to keep it organized. Remember that this doc will be a takeaway for the nonprofit, so just remember to keep it professional and easy to read. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or feel free to ask one of your ArcWeb representatives once we're in our breakout rooms. Okay. Great.
Awesome.
Well, this is, so basically, once you're in a breakout room, you'll see which group number you are, and one of us will be in the group to share the link to the chat.
Awesome. Thank you to the Shame on UX team, and thank you to Casey, who just wrapped up. So I am going to create the breakout rooms. It might take a minute or two, and some of you might get moved around a little bit, since we do have some attendees from the nonprofits themselves, and we want to make sure that people don't wind up reviewing their own website, because as anyone who has done any editing can tell you, it is very hard to edit your own things, and we're definitely looking to get people's fresh eyes on sites. So if people want to grab a drink or anything, now's a great time. Probably take like a minute or two while I get this all sorted out. And as was mentioned, we'll be sharing Google Docs once we get into the rooms themselves. One other thing to mention, Back on My Feet has a somewhat larger website than our other two nonprofits. So we actually have 3 Back on My Feet groups that we have broken up based on specific audiences. So the point there will be to just kind of look at it from the point of view of a particular audience, and I believe there's some information in the documents about that. So without further ado, I'm going to start moving people into the breakout rooms, and as was mentioned, there will be somebody from Shame on UX /ArcWeb in each group, and so if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them once you're in them. So please bear with me for a minute while I do this. All right, welcome back, everyone, from the breakout sessions. I was kind of popping in and out of them as they were going on, and I definitely heard some awesome feedback and some awesome collaboration. I won't talk for too long. I'm going to kind of pass things back over to our Shame on UX organizers, but I'll just throw out there, thank you everyone for all the effort and insight that you were providing, because there was definitely some awesome work and some awesome feedback that I was hearing from people. So without further ado, I'll hand things back over to our organizers.
Thanks, Kurt. All right, so hopefully everybody found this really helpful, and maybe these are tools that you can use in the future, not only to assess other people's work, but also assess your own. So I think we're at the part of the session where we're going to get one person from each group to start presenting their findings. And let's try to keep it brief, because we only have about 20 minutes and 5 groups, so about 4 minutes per group. So if someone from group number 1 wants to come forward and share what you found.
That'll be me. So I'm going to try and keep this as brief as I can. Starting with, I'll say that I was the volunteer view on the Back on My Feet website. And for visibility of system status, there were a couple things that we think could kind of help the user see everything a little clearer and a little more all-encompassing. First of all, for the volunteer page or the Get Involved page, there are a lot of different ways to get where you need to go. There's a View All Ways to Give, that's a hyperlink, and then there are boxes that you can click on with icons, and then underneath that there are photos with accompanying text, and they all sort of go to the same thing in a way that's a little bit redundant. So sort of having a landing page that's a little bit more, you're able to see every option very consistently, I think would be beneficial. It's going to get people where they need to go faster. Also, something that we found right as we were breaking out, be in the know about what's going on when you sign up for alerts. I don't know, am I allowed to share my screen really, really fast? Okay.
Yeah, go for it if you're able to. You should be able to.
Okay, there's a box where, I guess I should have shared the website. It's too late now. But it scrolls down and it doesn't look like it's supposed to scroll down. So if you scroll down, there are more options in this box right here, and there's a submit button. But having that so that you don't have to scroll at all, I personally feel would make way more sense, because there is, number 1, no indication that you're supposed to scroll. And number 2, that just requires more user action when you could just have it be very immediately available. Moving on, just something we noticed in general, there's not a bunch of accessibility in terms of other languages that we saw. So if they are available, making those more upfront, front and center, accessible for people who need access to that translation would probably work to your benefit. And moving on again, the consistency and standards we covered, kind of condensing all of the ways to get where the user wants to go for the get involved functions will make the steps to get where they need to go significantly fewer. Moving on. This speaks again to sort of what I was talking about, but in terms of efficiency of use, of course, there is a lot of content, and that content isn't necessarily bucketed into categories. So for example, if we go to, I'm gonna screen share. This is near the end, I promise. But if we go to this website here, this is the Get Involved page, and we have these 3 buckets here, along with other categories that are formatted in a different way. But if you click this hyperlink here, you get taken to a page that I personally really love the design of. Everything has icons, everything is very consistent, and I think this would maybe be a much more effective landing page in replacement of this, just so they're able to get directly where they need to go with fewer clicks. In the same vein, when you go to the home page here, as much as I love this image, to me as an outside viewer, this text here seems arbitrary in a way. So maybe having navigation more forefront at the beginning here so that the user doesn't have to go to this menu bar, particularly if you're trying to get volunteers involved quickly and efficiently. If you had learn how to help button here along with some of the other options for the website so that they didn't even have to scroll, it was very direct, very quick, I think that would work in your favor as well. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that pretty much covers it. Overall, the website I think is beautiful. There's just a lot of information that isn't efficiently categorized.
Awesome.
That's the end.
Thank you so much, Amy. All right. Does somebody from group number 2 want to come forward?
Yeah, I think that's our group. Okay, so that was great what Amy just went through. I know just in the interest of time, maybe we won't hit every one of these points with regards to specifics, but we did take a look at these user goals and really try to understand how well they were addressed and then related that to the heuristics. So I think first of all, the site does look very nice. The visual appeal is great. So there wasn't an issue there. But I think if we look at just some of their goals, I think the biggest one of their goals is just to better understand the mission and vision of the group for prospective partners. But partners is used kind of in many different contexts for 3 different groups: employment partners, then there's the corporate partners, and then there's also corporate sponsors. And so this language partner kind of vacillates. And if you really want to appeal to the partners who might be coming to the site, then that has to be very prominent when you get there. You kind of have to find that information in a menu at the top of the screen versus just kind of really hitting it when it's right there. It could be a button for a partner. There could be a button for an individual who wants to volunteer or an individual who wants to donate. But to make these paths very clear right at the start. The other thing is on the home page, you have to go kind of below the fold to see what the actual mission of the organization is. So we noticed that neither running nor helping the homeless were really prominently featured. Once you hit some of the secondary pages, that's where you really saw that information. So I think it's really important to kind of hammer those things home right at the outset. And we saw many great pictures, both of the people that have been helped and also the running activity that could be used on the homepage, or just some rethinking there versus just kind of the hands coming together, generic language of people helping people. A specific example is like the partner forms, the different types of partners. They're all kind of interchangeable, but you should think about prioritizing if partners or corporate partners what you're really looking to get. So I think having these clear paths right on the home page so people know right where to go if the purpose for coming to the website is to actually get some information or to get involved. Let me just take a quick look at the individual heuristics here. Let's see. There were some issues with screen size when you made changes. The text kind of adjusted in weird ways. The side menu kind of adjusted in weird ways. And we didn't take a look at the mobile version, so we don't even know what's going on there. So that's just from a design perspective, that's important. Let's see. Yep. No issues there. Talk about the partner thing. Didn't see any major errors on the page, and we really tried to break it, so that was a positive. In terms of navigation, it seems like the navigation was somewhat hidden. So once you use the drop downs, sometimes the information would be hidden. So again, there are a lot of paths on this site, so you could consider, again, is there anything you can consolidate? Maybe get it down to 3 or 4 menu items, and then have this 3 or 4 choices below each of those, so it's not many paths. Let's see. Oh, one other thing was press releases, finding press releases. Again, if there's sort of like an in the news section, but there isn't really a place where you can immediately see what corporate sponsors are doing related to the organization. Okay, that's it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. All right, group 4.
Hi, I'm going to talk about some of our findings. We actually just made a list of findings based on the different sections of the website, which worked for us because it wasn't, there wasn't too much like action to take. It was more of an informational website with a little bit of submission happening, but we found a lot of valuable missed opportunities for, especially on the homepage, for the action of donating and the action of volunteering. Volunteering was very hidden at the bottom of a secondary about page. So, bringing some of that up to a higher level of navigation, such as, the carousel that was the main focus of the homepage wasn't really offering too much. It had multiple pictures, but they weren't very trustworthy. They looked like stock photos. So we suggested, using photos that looked a little bit more unique to them, and maybe mixing it up with different very important call to action, such as volunteer and donate and submission. And then another main thing that we all agreed on was just the mission of the page was a little unclear, that none of us really even understood that all of the stories, I'm sorry, I forgot to say this was Black Phoenix Inc. All of the stories were going to be put into a book. And like the clarity around that could be improved about, why would you want to submit to this? Also, in the about page, we made some suggestions on the employee photos to take them all so they look similar, a little more professional. Then they were missing one for the founder. They quoted him, but didn't say that he was the founder, didn't show a picture of him. So just like a little more insight into who they really are, just to draw people in, make them want to donate, get involved. The contact page, the contact form wasn't working very well, and it had some weird feedback to it. It said cookie is invalid or something, cookie nonce. That was pretty funny. There was a submissions page that we weren't even sure why it existed, because it was just showing a list of submissions, and we found out that was just because a lot of people were asking whether or not their submissions were received, but it wasn't like a way to read them or anything like that, and it didn't look very updated. So again, it was just making like the credibility look a little lower, because like there wasn't any recent submissions. So either maybe not showing that, or showing it in a different way would be good. And then the actual submission action that we want people to take, there was a little mistake about where to do that. Some people thought it was in the submission section, but it was actually under another navbar item. So just rethinking the navigation and how it's worded. The donate button was not highlighted enough, and we found a couple other places where it could be linked to actual donations, where it was just like talking about donate, but then not giving a button to make that, donate step. Also, it only went to PayPal, so we were talking about other options for that. There was just a few other places on the site where we suggested a little bit more clarity around things, like in the volunteer section, what are you actually volunteering for? In the submissions, there was 2 different types of submissions, and we were unclear the differences between them and if they were past, present, ongoing. So just like more clarity in a lot of places. And then we suggested actual reading of some of the stories would be nice. Maybe just even a hint of a reading of a story, just to give people more ideas about what Black Phoenix Inc. is looking for, and a little taste about what's been submitted already, and maybe doing that in the form of text or videos. And actually, we were happy to find out that that's going to happen. And Maya was talking about a YouTube channel where people would be reading some of the stories, but we pointed out that might take people away from the website and keep them there. So it was definitely a good discussion with a lot of good points, and I thank everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. And lastly, we have group 5.
All right, so I'm going to make this brief since we're running out of time. I thought I'd throw this up so you guys can see just sort of the generic comments that I'll sort of go over. The first thing was just about the colors on the screen. I think people felt that the red was a little bit jarring. People also had this consensus that there was far too much text, and it's kind of hard to focus on specific things that Squash Farts might be interested in focusing on. So more generally, we spoke about maybe, putting a little bit about what squash is as a sport, because that's not necessarily known. Maybe having some easy buttons right here at the beginning that can, help the different stakeholders that come into this website. Then also they could have things like testimonials on this main page, or press and awards that they've received, because this is mostly information, and it's a lot of information, but it's hard to sort of go further into the website from this as a landing page. We also talked about how the text on this main page doesn't necessarily match the text from the logo. And then let's see. So the other sort of general comment was restructuring. So some of the things that you click on seem surprising what's there. So for instance, under About Us, if you go to Family, I think the perception is that's going to take you to a page where people who are recipients of, the mentoring and the squash and the volunteering can find sort of resources. But the reality is that it's a nice database of all the graduates who have been through the system. So maybe a rebranding of this, and then having a page that's more obviously for, resources for families that are a part of this NGO. Another one was that on the main page, you have the first thing that's actually clickable is a job opportunity. So we thought we should, nest that under the get involved and the job opportunities. And then also, because kids are involved in this, we thought it could be, maybe under young friends. That's, a good place to have a good restructuring of the website so that it's more user-friendly for kids, because it's a lot of text. And so maybe catering the design a little bit more towards the children that are involved in this program would be good. Okay, and I'm going to stop there, actually.
Thank you very much, Mia. I'm going to jump in since we are pretty much at time. I just wanted to, so that's it. I just wanted to emphasize, thank you so much for everyone's attendance and efforts. I think that was some really amazing feedback, and thank you very much to our nonprofits for participating. And one last time, that's Black Phoenix Inc., Squash Smarts, and Back Up My Feet. I think that you all all of you have really terrific missions, and I hope that maybe you've gotten some feedback today that hopefully will make it a little bit easier to focus more on your missions and less on worrying about people trying to use the website. There was a lot of passion in all these organizations, and so just thank you for attending, and thank you for all of the awesome work that you do in our communities. So we did record both the educational portion of the event and also the presentations. We are definitely going to be posting the educational component on YouTube. I just want to say I am always very mindful of putting people's faces and likenesses out there without getting permission. So if you were one of the presenters and you would not, and you don't want to be featured, we are going to wait a few days, and I'll follow up with an email out to everyone. But you can email us at marketing@arcwebtech.com or kurt@arcwebtech.com, and just if you don't want to be included, just let me know, and I will take it out of the recording. And like I said, I'll also follow up with an email. That's it for everyone. Thank you so much again. There are a couple more Philly Tech Week things going on, I believe. But hopefully this has been a great experience. It was a great experience for us. And thank you all for your time this afternoon. Round of applause for all of yourselves, because this was awesome. And then I'm going to click the red button that's going to kick everyone out. So thanks everyone for your time today. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.